My name is Willina. I'm with J&L's Medical Transport, a non-emergency medical transportation company specializing in wheelchair transportation for those that have special needs transportation. I am by trade and by training a registered nurse for almost 20 years. I had decided to go into non-emergency transportation back in 2019-2020 after having an opportunity by an ex-husband to purchase his business. At that time, I examined the business that he had. I had someone from the SBA examine the business and told me that it was too high risk at that time for what they wanted the sale price to be and what they wanted their payout to be over time to actually purchase that business. Therefore, I listened, and he basically told me at the SBA, you might be better off just opening this up yourself if you have the resources. So I took that and ran, and I started J&L's. As a result, I created J&L's not really knowing what I was doing at all. And I have made some very critical mistakes that have put me at risk for losing the business. Initially, when I started the business, I was just like, let's do it. Let's go. I got this. And then as I have proceeded, I'm realizing, wow, this is a lot more challenging than I had expected. Can I do it? Absolutely. I know I can, and I will achieve it. I've got God's help with me. Thank you, Father. So I'm not worried about that. But I wanted to come on and start this channel to help some of you all not make the same mistakes as me. I hope you enjoy. And if you like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on some information that you may want to know about. I'm going to be as open and as transparent as I possibly can without exposing all my terrible experiences, but I do want to expose enough of them so you don't make those same mistakes. I hope you enjoy this channel, and let me know if there's any feedback that I can give to you. The goal in sharing with you some of my experiences in opening up an NEMT is to give you a more wholesome view of what it's like when you make all the mistakes. Of course, you hear tons of people say, oh, I made all these mistakes, and that is very true. You will make a lot of mistakes when you're starting out. But I wanted to give more of detail what those mistakes are so that you may not make the same ones and be teeter-tottering on whether or not you're going to lose your business. Yes. So the first thing I wanted to point out, my first point, is to do your homework. And when I say do your homework, that means find out what's going on as far as non-emergency medical transportation within your city or your state, your locality. It's very important because you need to know if there really is truly a need for transportation in your area. There are some areas that are overly saturated, and while there's others that are underserved. You want to make sure that you're getting into an area that still needs transportation. You also want to look at your brokers. In the state of South Carolina, where I reside, we have one broker, Motive Care. And anybody that's into NEMT, maybe have done the research, has found that it is very difficult to do business with Motive Care. There are a lot of regulations, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of certifications, training programs that your drivers have to go through, all which are wonderful because you do get that experience. However, it's very challenging from that perspective because it limits who you can hire. So with that being said, really evaluate your brokers and if it's whether or not it's advisable for you to go private pay or go with a broker. Next, consideration into your setup. How do you want to be established? Do you want to be an LLC? Are you a partnership? Are you a sole member? Are you a corporation? Next thing, make sure that you can drive. You want to be able to drive your own vehicle. I didn't listen when people told me, the broker, when I started contracting with them, told me that, hey, you should be coming in as your own driver, your first driver. And as a nurse, by trade, and as a travel nurse during the time of COVID, that wasn't feasible for me. I didn't want to be a driver. I had no desire to be a driver. I love being a nurse. I want to be an entrepreneur. I love being an entrepreneur, but I wasn't interested in driving. However, I have found out that if you can't drive your own vehicle, if you run out of employees, who's going to drive? So you need to be able to drive. The last thing I want to talk about on this particular video would be finances. Yes, finances. Is it expensive to start an NEMT? Absolutely. Yes, it is. Based on the type of equipment that you want to use. For me, I'm specializing in wheelchair vehicles, and those can range from anywhere from $20,000 to a used wheelchair van, accessible van, to $75,000 for the hybrid vans. If you're going in with a vehicle, you have to factor in the cost of either a used car or whatever type of car that you're going to use to transport patients back and forth. So it needs to be something safe, of course, and it needs to be not a brand new model, but a newer model. And if you're going to contract, then I believe they want it to be within 7 years, but we'd have to double check and fact check me on that one. Your finances are a very important factor. How much you're going to pay for a vehicle, and how much in insurance you're going to pay. Those insurance premiums are very, very expensive, especially if you're not used to paying for commercial vehicles. My personal rate for the month when I initially started back in 2020 was approximately $1,200, maybe $1,500 per month. That was to insure myself and one other driver. I'll have to tell you about my driver stories later, but I'll tell you. Anyway, the insurances can definitely vary. They do go down. The rates do go down after time, as long as you don't grow too quickly. That is another thing. You don't want to grow too quickly in this industry because it will increase your insurance rates. If you're changing your policy around a lot, it will change your insurance rate. So as far as your finances are concerned, when opening up a non-emergency medical transport company, I would recommend saving a lot before you actually try to open up or contract or go out on your own on the private end. The reason why, again, we just discussed how much the insurance premiums can be, how much your vehicle, if you pay on a note, you're going to have to pay that, and you're going to have to pay yourself. So even though you are driving for yourself, you still have to pay your bills. You want to be very cognizant of how long it takes to initially get your first customer. You can get your first customer within the first 1 to 3 months. You're just going to have to be aggressive and doing a lot of follow-ups. If you're going more on the contract rate, on the contract side, then you're looking more at a lengthier process for getting contracted, but you're looking at some good income after you're contracted. It can be anywhere from 30 to 90 days. However, that can be extended depending on how long paperwork takes to get back and forth, those kind of things. So I'd say, to be safe, give yourself 6 months before you're actually getting your first paycheck from your broker. As far as the private pay, that's all going to depend on your setup. But you want to make sure that in the meantime, if you know you're going to have at least an outgo of $2,000, maybe more, depending on your driver's records or whatever, for initial costs and startup for that insurance, make sure you have enough stacked back that you and your family can survive for the next 6 months. When I was moved out of my day job into my business full time, I wasn't ready. And I was in the process of getting ready when those doors at that 9 to 5 were closed for me, and I had to focus in 100% on the business. So again, another reason why I'm struggling right now is because I didn't properly prepare financially for if something else happened. I knew I had my income as a travel nurse, and was making a very good income. So I banked that on getting the business up. It was a crucial mistake, but lesson learned. And like I said, God will always provide. It's named after him, Jehovah and Lena's. We're going to be all right. So from there, I can say to you guys, please make sure you have a strong financial backing, or are able to get the financing, get loans, or have built up a trade line, which we'll talk about all of that in these videos. I hope to post at least weekly, but hopefully more than that, so that you can have a better understanding of what the NEMT business looks like as you're growing, or at least how it looked like for me as I'm growing. All right, thank you, and you guys have a wonderful and a blessed day. Talk to you soon.